Hello, and thank you for coming to Mystery, Mystics, and Metaphysics yet again. Today, we're discussing fear in all of its forms. So, fear we can look at in one of two ways. It can either be very debilitating or it can be very, very helpful. Fear often points out things that we need to look at. When I see fear, I like to write face everything and rise, because it often gives us a good indicator of things that we need to work on, things that our soul has not yet fully processed, whether it's from other lifetimes or from this lifetime. There's two kinds of fear. We have irrational fears, and then there's rational fears. So if you're in the Grand Canyon and you're walking too close to the ledge and you start feeling afraid, that's a rational fear. If you're walking in the Grand Canyon and you hear a growl behind you, rational fear. If you're in the Grand Canyon, you're in your car in the parking lot, 1,000 feet from the ledge, and you're afraid of that height, not so rational fear. If you're afraid of speaking to people, even talking in public, not really a rational fear. Rational fears are born of true threats to our well-being, whether that be our health, our wealth, or our physical well-being. That's a rational fear. Irrational fears are when we look at something and we project onto it all these different things that don't necessarily belong there. For instance, in the dating game, so many of us, when we're looking for a partner, once we start dating or we find someone, the first thing we do is look for any indicator that they are anything like the last person or anything like our worst ex. So even if there are things that don't relate, such as like hair color, name, eye color, ethnicity, we're going to project those things onto them because we're afraid of being hurt. So in order to separate ourselves from that, we project onto them. We need to be aware when we're doing this and figure out a way to stop doing that, because it really does not help us move forward in a healthy or productive manner. Now, if you notice things like, I don't know, they slap you, or they talk down to you in public, or they refute everything you say, they're a mismatcher, it's called. Yeah, that's a good fear to have. That's a good red flag to look at and be like, I need to take a step back. So what are some other times that fear works against us instead of for us? A huge fear of many, many people is the fear of success. We're all like, I don't have that fear. Most of us do. If you really look at your life and you look at opportunities that have been brought to you that you've either avoided or you've messed up in some way, self-sabotage, all these things are born of a fear of success. Why would we fear success? Well, maybe we're afraid to be seen. Maybe we're afraid to be who we truly are. Maybe we're afraid that people will discover that we're not the person, that the face that's being presented. And that is called the Imposter Syndrome, where even though you have all these talents and these gifts and you've proven it over and over again, we will get into a rhythm of denying that and denying deeper parts of ourselves because we're afraid that we're not as good as the people around us think we are, or that we don't deserve the accolades that we have actually won because of our diligence and our integrity and our worth. So what is your fear? Excuse me. Another big fear is about showing up. So you may have noticed that I started to get a catch in my throat as we're talking. When you do a lot of energy work, sometimes this happens when you have something powerful to deliver to people, something that they need that can change them for the better, sometimes you get a little bit of disturbance. You get something that's going to get in the way. Speaking of fear, people are afraid of not being perfect. Nobody's perfect. No matter how perfect they seem, they are not perfect. We are perfect being who we are, but that doesn't mean that we make no mistakes or we have no flaws. That's not what that's about. Oftentimes, we're afraid to show up in the marketplace, in our relationships, anywhere in life as our full embodied self. Why would that be? Well, if you watch any movies at all, you'll see, especially, what are they called? The ones in the afternoon, the novellas and whatnot, where people, when they start becoming more successful, the people around them will try to hold them back and pull them down. And, somebody's got to show you that you're not so good. If someone feels that way, that's about their self-worth. That has nothing to do with you. One of the best quotes I've heard recently is, it's none of your business what other people think about you. And it's true. You're never going to please everybody. You will never be perfect for everyone. You will never be everyone's cup of tea. So don't try. As the great Eminem said, if everybody loves you, you're not saying anything. You're not standing for anything. When you really stand in your integrity, there's always going to be somebody who doesn't think the same way you do, doesn't love the same way you do, doesn't act the same way you do, and that's okay. So when we have these fears that surround us, we need to decide, rational, irrational. If it's irrational, where did it come from? Like, why is it there? What am I looking at? Do I have an irrational fear of cats because I got attacked once and it's just like way overblown from where it needs to be and it just needs to be backed up a little bit? Do I have a fear of success because I'm afraid to stick my head up and be proud of who I am because deep inside of myself I do not feel worthy, or I may not even know who I am because I've not been given the space to explore that? What are you afraid of? Look at it, discern possibly where it came from, and begin again to process what this means to you. It's here for a reason. Fear is not necessarily a bad thing. It only becomes bad when you try to run away from it. If you don't face it, if you don't acknowledge it, it gets big and it gets strong and it gets nasty. When you're afraid of something, if you face it, you look it in the eye and you say, I want to know you. I want to know, where were you born? What are you doing here? Do you have a message for me? What's happening? So maybe later on today, we'll do a second video and we will have fear. We will look our fear in the face and we will ask it those questions. Who are you? Where are you from? Why are you here? Thank you so much. Now on to the Q&A.